welcome back. If this is your first time here, my name's Chris, and this is Entei's Inferno, a podcast where we talk about the hobby from the collector side, the vendor side, and a little bit of everything in between. Today's episode is a little different. The first few episodes were more reflective, more mindset-based, more psychology of collecting, and there's a lot of storytelling. But today, I want to start stepping into the educational side of the hobby, because grading is one of the biggest forces shaping everything right now. Prices, demand, liquidity, even how people collect in the first place. So I want to break down grading from my perspective. Not as a grading company expert by any means, but as a collector, a vendor, and someone actively moving slabs in the hobby week in and week out. Why do people grade? Why I grade? Why PSA still runs the game? And what's happening with the rest of the grading landscape underneath them. Because whether you love grading, hate grading, or have no idea or understand it at all, it affects you within the hobby. Now listen, people will collect raw, people will collect slabs, and both mindsets are a little bit different. People collect raw, they put them in binders, they don't really care too much about the condition as long as the front and the artwork looks good. Slabs, complete opposite, you're going to want condition is king, you want it to be a PSA 10, maybe you collect PSA 9s, and you're also wanting to protect the card, the longevity of it. And obviously there's also the resale value part, where people may want to have a slab because they want to resell it in the future, versus the raw. Yes, the raw market will still go up, but it will never jump as high as something like a graded slab. So now I got back in the hobby about a few years back. And grading honestly hooked me instantly. I'm a perfectionist by nature, so the idea of taking a clean card, sending it off, and seeing if it came back a 10, it scratched that itch in my brain immediately. At first, I wasn't even submitting myself. I'd pull cool cards, I'd give them to a buddy of mine who was sending bulk subs to PSA, and honestly, he helped me learn the process without having to dive in all the way yet. And it also helped him offset his cost, helped me offset my cost, so I didn't have to meet a minimum of 20 cards. I could give him a few, help him hit his minimum, so on and so forth. But once I started my content page and stepped into the hobby as a vendor myself, I started submitting on my own. And honestly, I love it. The first cards I ever sent in, well, that was the Full Art Charizard from 151 and the Parasol Lady SIR from Paradox Rift. Both cards I pulled myself at the time. I can remember both vividly. The Charizard came back at 10. Parasol Lady came back at 9. And that was it. I was hooked. Because once you hit that first 10, you're chasing that feeling again and again. And yeah, I wish I got both 10s, but you win some and you lose some. Now, one thing I do want to talk about is if you do plan on submitting, there is a piece of submission anxiety. Now, what I mean by that is when you submit your cards to get graded by a grading company, you typically are going to have to ship them out yourself. So whether you're shipping with USPS, UPS, FedEx, whatever it is, sure, you can get insurance on if it's going out, but typically that insurance doesn't really cover too much, maybe $100 value. So you could be sending out thousands of dollars worth of cards, and if they lose it or it gets stolen, you're SOL. However, from point A, your doorstep, to point B, their doorstep, the grading company, that is where the anxiety lives. The second it lands at the grading company's doorstep and they let you know, whether it's via email or push notification, that they have received your order and it's in process, you're good. Take a sigh of relief. Now it's just a waiting game to get your cards back. Now fast forward. My grading mindset now has evolved tremendously. I grade for two main reasons: resale and my personal collection. From the vendor standpoint, grading increases liquidity and value. So if I pull a card with strong artwork, it's a strong Pokémon popularity, and it's very clean, grading it just makes sense. It becomes easier to move, easier to price, easier for buyers to trust. But my collector brain works a little differently. Now, I don't collect raw cards personally. I collect slabs. I love the look, the feel, knowing that my cards are protected, and if it's in a Gem Mint 10, it just hits different. Right now, I'm collecting Entei slabs. Shocker, I know, but he's obviously my favorite Pokemon. Now, also behind the scenes, secretly, but I guess not so secret anymore since I'm telling you guys this, but I am collecting rainbow cards and celebration cards in PSA 10s. Two things that I believe in heavily long term. Why? Celebrations, it's the 25th anniversary. You have the 30th anniversary coming up. I think those are just going to do well long term. And rainbow cards, why? Because a lot of people don't know this, but Sun and Moon and Sword and Shield was really the only era that they were in. Scarlet and Violet and now Mega, they are not producing rainbow cards anymore. So the texture was so good. On top of that, they're very hard to grade, so they have low pops. And they have some really cool cards in rainbows that people don't realize. So there's going to be a scarcity of those cards. So that's something that I'm personally collecting. You don't have to. I could be wrong, but I think they're cool. And there's just something about owning a Gem Mint 10 in general. Knowing it's one of X amount in that condition, that scratches a different collector itch than Raw ever could. Now, when you talk about displaying your cards, slabs, in my opinion, trump binder collecting. Now, it doesn't mean you shouldn't binder collect. That's totally fine. Trust me, much cheaper too. But when I look at a binder, I think it's really cool. Some people do an incredible job with setting up their binder, whether it's each page is themed by a Pokemon or each page is themed by a color or so on and so forth. Really cool ways to set up a binder. And if you need a binder, by the way, House of Eevee, incredible. Her name is Carly, and she makes custom binders. Please make sure to hit her up. No plug here, no promo. I don't get paid for these things. She's just a friend of mine, and she does incredible work. Now, moving on. Slabs, the way that they display. Personally, for me, that is what I like. It gives it a museum feeling. It gives each card its own character. And when you display it, whether it's in an acrylic or in your display case or on a shelf by your desk or in your office or in your home, it just hits differently for me. And it's not that one is better than the other or one is worse than the other. It's all about what you prefer. For me, I prefer slabs. For most people, they prefer binders, and that's okay. Let's address the elephant in the room now. PSA. We can complain about PSA all we want. Their price hikes, their turnaround times, lack of grading transparency. But let me tell you, when you're at shows, none of that matters. Everybody wants to squawk about it on their social media, be upset. But when I'm sitting at a show or I'm vending at a show, PSA is liquid. Buyers don't walk up asking for CGC. They don't ask for tag. They look at PSA slabs and they buy PSA slabs. And from the vendor side, I see it constantly. People are walking around with CGC or tag slabs trying to trade them. And vendors are saying no, not because they're bad slabs, but because those products do not move out of our display cases. They sit in inventory. Now, true collectors might love CGC. And if you want artwork for your PC and you want it to be graded and secured and protected, CGC is totally fine. But if resale matters to you, PSA dominates that conversation. Do they deserve it? Probably, maybe not. Depends on who you ask. They've built trust for decades, though. I just wish they'd open the curtain a little bit more on how cards get graded. Which is where newer companies like Tag gets a little interesting, because transparency might be their lane into relevancy. Okay, let's talk about grading cost. When I started, bulk PSA subs were around $12 a card. Now we're pushing $25, with a minimum submission requirement of 20 cards, typically for a bulk order, for example. Now that changes behavior. I'm way more intentional now because of this. Now I scrutinize centering, edges, surfaces. Now, not that I didn't do that before, but I am very, very particular now. I don't just send cool cards anymore. Sometimes I do. But honestly, I think that helps the hobby long term though, because it weeds out junk grading, especially this mystery slab era, where people are sending 50-cent EX cards just to create floor pulls for whatever weird boardwalk game scam that they're running. Sure, they slab it at a $10 value, but nobody actually wants them. The reason why those slabs have a $10 value is because these boardwalk mystery slab people are buying them for their mystery slabs. Those are the only people that want them because they are putting them at a floor for these games that they're doing. At the end of the day, higher grading costs is going to force quality control. And that's healthier for the slab market overall, whether we see it right now or not, but in the long term it will be. Now, back to the mystery slab thing, it drives me nuts. And you want to know why? Is because from the vendor side, I'm seeing a lot more people walk up to me with the most random cards in a CGC 8, a tag 7. I don't even know why these cards are graded. And now I'm starting to think it's because these people are playing these mystery slab boardwalk games. And they're ending up with these cards that nobody wants. And they're coming to shows. And they're walking around hoping to trade these weird slabbed CGC tag cards into a PSA card. And that right there is all I need to see to show me that PSA still is king with liquidity. Let's talk about turnaround times. Because this with PSA drives me nuts. Just hire more people, please. But at the same time, it does prove demand. PSA has admittedly said they're overwhelmed because grading demand is insane. Honestly, we are to blame because they did raise their prices recently from like $18 to $20 per card. And guess what? We still kept grading with them. Not good. Well, good, but not good. Because if you want to complain about it and still grade with them, you just proved their point that their demand is so high for grading. So now what they do? They raise it again from $20 to $25. Personally, I send one 20-card submission a month. So that way returns are always cycling back to me. And honestly, half the time, I forget what I sent because turnaround times are so long. They're currently at 95 business days. That is literally half a year. Crazy, but it is what it is. But it kind of makes returns fun again, me forgetting what I sent. It's like opening a box on Christmas morning and being surprised. It's like a surprise gift to yourself. Especially when you forget you sent something big and it comes back at 10, double surprise. Awesome. Now, let's talk about the rest. CGC, solid slabs, but they feel more collector focused than market focused. Now, pristine 10s are really the only CGC grade that kind of excites me personally. Now, tag I believe heavily in if they can execute properly. They're still newer. AI grading, transparency reports, super sleek slab design. They're doing a lot right. People complain about their slab durability, but realistically, every slab cracks if you try hard enough. Hand me a Beckett, hand me a CGC, hand me a PSA, and hand me a tag. I can guarantee you I could snap those with my bare hands. All of them. But that's not why they're cased like that. They are cased for protection, and not protection from gorillas like myself trying to snap them with my bare hands, but they are protecting your card if you drop it, if it falls off a table, if it falls off a display case or a shelf, or out of your car, or whatever it is, out of your case that you're carrying them in, or if they're in transit and they're bumping around. This protects the integrity of the card itself. They're not designed to be snapped in half, people. But now, when it comes back to tag, right? If they introduce maybe a pristine or a black label type tier, I think they really could become a legitimate contender for the number 2 spot behind PSA. Because right now, let's be honest, it's PSA, and then everyone else is fighting for scraps underneath. They all kind of have their own lane. Beckett, though, still the luxury brand. Black labels are grails. But for the average collector, PSA is still the everyday standard. At the end of the day, grading is a tool, not a requirement. Some people grade for profit. Some people grade for protection. Some people grade because they love perfection, like me. But no matter where you fall, grading should enhance your collecting experience, not dictate it. Because the hobby should always be fun first and strategic second. Now, if you enjoyed this episode and you like this more educational direction I'm going with, please let me know. Shoot me a DM, leave a comment on wherever you're listening to this, topics you want to hear me break down next. And if you want to support the podcast, you could find Entei's Inferno on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. New episodes dropping weekly, but until next time, Collect what you love, grade what you believe in, and I'll catch up with you on the next one.